Rita was my best friend until she decided she could steal not just my secrets, but my life. She thought her betrayal would go unnoticed, while I smiled and watched her world fall apart before my eyes. When she lost everything, her job, her friends, and her respect, I didn't feel an ounce of regret. But you know what? That was just the beginning. My name is Sasha. I'm 22, and if someone had told me a year ago that my friend Rita would destroy my life, I would have laughed in their face. Seriously? Rita, who I'd been through everything with. Good times, bad times, and countless late-night binge-watching sessions. We shared the dirtiest secrets, things no one should ever know. I trusted her 100%, no doubts. I thought she'd run to help me if I ever got into trouble, not stab me in the back. But I guess I was wrong. You know how people say everyone has their own hidden agenda? Well, turns out Rita had hers. But if someone had told me that her plan involved destroying my entire life, I would have laughed it off. She wouldn't, right? Or would she? Everything started changing when Max entered my life. Max, 25, was like a movie dream come true from the start. You know those perfect relationships in films? Parties until dawn, deep talks over dinner, inside jokes that only the two of you get. He was the guy you start dreaming about a future with, never imagining anything could go wrong. We'd been together for a year, and I genuinely thought I'd found my soulmate. And through it all, Rita, my best friend, my love advisor, was there. I thought she was genuinely happy for me, or so I believed. But you know how things change in an instant? That happened to us. It started with little things, the kind of details you might not notice at first. Rita suddenly took an odd interest in Max. At first it seemed innocent enough. She often ended up alone with him whenever I was busy or had to leave. I wasn't too concerned. They're just friends, right? But then things started happening that made me question everything. Rita became more invested in what was going on with Max than she was with me. And he didn't seem to mind her company either. At first I thought, okay, maybe I'm being too paranoid. But my gut feeling started to sound alarms. You know when something feels too good to be true? That's the sense I got. Max kept reassuring me that I was overthinking it. Sasha, you're overthinking, he'd tell me whenever I tried to bring it up. Oh yeah, right, because I love creating drama out of thin air for fun. Then there was that one time. I dropped by Max's place unannounced, and guess who was there? Of course, it was Rita. They were sitting on the couch, deep in conversation, whispering and giggling like I'd interrupted some secret meeting. Oh, hey, Sash, we were just discussing something, she said, flashing me the most innocent smile. And there I stood thinking, secrets? Really? You guys are now sharing secrets? Most people might have brushed it off, but not me. Something inside me shifted, but I didn't make a scene. Though, to be honest, I was tempted to cause a massive one. Something out of a movie. Surprise! I know everything. But without solid proof, I decided to hold off on turning it into a cheap drama. However, things were really starting to bother me. I began to notice more and more how they were always talking, without me, and Rita was way more interested in Max than she was in my life. If she'd even once asked, "Hey, Sasha, how are you feeling?" I would have thought maybe she suddenly cared about me. But no, all her attention had shifted to him. It was weird, really weird. And when I finally tried to talk to Max about it, he just brushed it off. You're just being dramatic, Sash. Oh yeah, of course. I must just love creating drama for no reason, right? But deep down, I already knew things weren't as simple as they seemed. One evening, I made a mistake that I couldn't forgive myself for. Imagine, a regular day, no suspicions, just hanging out with Rita at my place, chatting about random stuff. At one point, I had to step away to the bathroom for a minute. I left my phone on the table because, well, who would touch it? We're friends, and there were no secrets between us. What I didn't account for was that if someone starts talking about secrets, it might mean they have their own dark plans. Rita turned out to be that friend who couldn't resist digging a little deeper. It all seemed so innocent. I left for just a couple of minutes, didn't even lock the bathroom door to get back as quickly as possible. But those minutes were enough for Rita. She saw my phone and apparently decided to seize the opportunity. You know, Some people just can't pass up a chance to stick their nose where it doesn't belong. And Rita was one of those people. She went through my photos. And of course, she picked the ones most inappropriate for anyone else to see. Our photos, me and Max, those cute, slightly personal shots we took for ourselves. You know the ones. Moments you save not for public viewing, but to laugh and reminisce about together later. No one, besides the two of us, was ever supposed to see them. And I was sure that's how it would stay. When I came back into the room, Rita was sitting there with the same innocent expression on her face. Calm, smiling, as if nothing had happened. She even joked about how long I'd been in the bathroom, and we continued chatting like everything was fine. Honestly, at the time I didn't suspect a thing. We sat, drank tea, discussed the latest news, and I left with the thought that everything was normal. Who would have thought that evening would mark the beginning of my personal nightmare? A few days passed and then the weirdness began. At first it was just emojis and strange jokes from friends that I didn't understand. "Hey, what hidden talents does Max have?" one friend wrote, adding a bunch of laughing emojis. I thought it was just a dumb joke and didn't give it much thought. But when the messages started getting weirder, I knew something was wrong. "Didn't know he was so interesting," another friend messaged, leaving me completely confused. At first, I thought it was just silly teasing, but then came the message that turned everything upside down. A friend sent me a link to a social media post. I clicked it, and my entire world collapsed. There on the screen were the intimate photos of me and Max, the very ones no one was ever supposed to see. They'd been posted for everyone to see, with the caption, "This is who this guy really is." My heart sank. The shock was indescribable. The pictures that were only meant for the two of us were now out there for everyone to see. I sat there staring at the screen, unable to believe my eyes. It was so unexpected and horrifying that I couldn't even think of what to do next. How could this have happened? Who could have done something so vile? I started retracing the last few days, trying to find a reason and, of course, a suspect. My mind was racing. But the more I thought about it, the more my gut pieced together the puzzle. Who could have had access to my phone? Who could have seen those photos? Only one person. Rita. That night, when I stepped away to the bathroom, she was right there with my phone. Is this some kind of joke? I thought, staring at the screen, still in disbelief. But the more I processed it, the clearer it became. Rita didn't just take those photos. She betrayed me. My mind was spinning. You know that feeling when your entire world comes crashing down in a single moment? That's exactly what I felt. Everything I knew, all my senses of reality, it all crumbled instantly. The first thing I did was grab my phone and call Max. Of course, I was hoping for an explanation, because he was the only person I could talk to about this nightmare. Max answered almost immediately, and I unloaded the chaos on him. He was in shock, completely, utterly stunned. I could hear the confusion in his voice. "Sash, I swear I didn't post anything. Why would I?" he said with such sincerity that, for a second, I even began to doubt my own conclusions. But Max, a guy with principles, would never pull such a stupid stunt. It's just not his style. We stayed on the phone, both of us shaken. I could feel his bewilderment even through the call. We started going over everyone who might have had access to my phone. Anyone who could have been vile enough to dig into my personal data and post those photos for everyone to see. And then it hit me. That moment of realization was like a lightning strike. The whole picture suddenly came together, like a puzzle. Who had access to my phone that night? Who could have seen those photos? Who was right there with me? Of course, it was Rita. My best friend, the one I trusted with all my secrets. She was the only one who could have done it. My heart clenched with pain and anger. I was fuming inside. Imagine discovering that the person you trusted most, the one who had always been your ally, was actually the one who betrayed you. It wasn't just a stab in the back. It felt like my whole life suddenly lost meaning. Blood rushed to my face. Every nerve inside me screamed that I should cause a scene right away. I wanted to grab my phone, call her, and demand an explanation. But thankfully, I held back. You can't just accuse your friend without proof, right? especially when the betrayal is this big. I knew direct accusations wouldn't help here. I needed another approach, a subtle one. I chose the path of patience and observation. I decided to act like nothing had happened. Yeah, calm as a Buddhist monk on a long vacation. I didn't make a scene. Inside, I was a storm. But on the outside, complete calm. This was like an experiment. I started watching Rita closely, searching for any small signs, any details that might give her away. She seemed the same on the surface, but I knew it was just a mask. Every time we met, I kept a close eye on her behavior. Then one day, over coffee, I casually brought up the topic. Innocently, like I had no suspicions. "Hey, Rita, have you seen what's been going on with those photos of Max? Pretty nasty, huh?" I said with a slight worry in my voice, as if I was genuinely concerned, but not accusing. Just a light question. And this is what I noticed. Rita tried to maintain her usual calm, but it was just a thin facade. Her gaze shifted slightly to the side, the first sign of nervousness. Her hand trembled a little as she brought her coffee to her lips. And her voice, it became slightly louder and sharper than usual. It wasn't just an attempt to steer away from the topic. It was the reaction of someone who knows they've been caught. "Yeah, it's unpleasant, but it's probably someone from your circle who made a joke," she replied, in a casual tone, like she was trying to convince me it wasn't that important. But I couldn't ignore the fact that her fake calm was cracking. It was like looking at a poorly stitched outfit. One wrong thread, and it was all going to fall apart. Inside, I already knew. It was her. Rita was guilty, and she knew I was catching on. Now it was just a matter of time. A week passed, and during that time, I gathered everything I needed to expose Rita. Some people just can't keep their mouths shut, and Rita was one of them. Every time we met, she practically set herself up. It started with small comments that seemed innocent at first, but then she started talking more and more about Max. And it wasn't just the usual, "How's he doing?" but more like, "You know, Sasha, he's too good for you." Or, "You could find someone easier, less ambitious." She played the role of the concerned friend who was supposedly looking out for me, but was really undermining my trust in him. Well, okay, Rita, you've clearly gotten too into your role as the relationship expert. Then came the moment I realized it was time to act. It was time for my counterattack. She was too confident in her ability to get away with everything, and that was her weakness. My plan was simple but genius. Sometimes to catch a fox, you have to let them feel like they've already won. We were at a party with friends. Music playing in the background, drinks flowing, friends laughing. Just a regular gathering, nothing special. I played my part as the perfect friend, acting like everything was normal, like I knew nothing. No one suspected that I had a plan in motion. And then, in the middle of the party, I casually started a conversation. With such a carefree tone, like it was just random chatter, I said, "Can you believe someone leaked Max's photos online? It's insane! Who could have done that? How did it even happen?" I said it with such an innocent expression that I almost wanted to applaud myself for the acting. Honestly, I could have won an Oscar for that scene. Rita, of course, took the bait. Her arrogance became her downfall. She was so confident that her plan had worked that she started glowing with smugness. It was that moment when you look at someone and see how they're basking in their victory. In her eyes, I could see the triumph. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger. "Oh, well, you know, these things just happen. Maybe someone in your circle misunderstood something," she said with a tone that was almost dismissive, like it was all just a joke. Like watching this drama unfold was her personal soap opera, where she was both the director and the writer. She acted as if it were some sort of joke. But I knew better. She was enjoying every second of it. Her smug smile said more than any words. At that moment, I felt my patience starting to wear thin, but I kept my composure. This time, I was playing by my own rules. While she was talking about how she could easily imagine someone wanting to make Max look bad, I quietly had my phone in my pocket. It was on, and the voice recorder was capturing every word, every false comment, every phrase. It was all being recorded. She had no idea her own words were becoming evidence against her. And the whole time, I pretended not to notice her smugness. I played the part of the naive friend, just concerned about what was going on. "Yeah, it's awful. I can't believe someone would do that," I said, all the while my anger boiling inside me. It was like watching a fire that was about to go out of control. Rita kept playing her game, unaware that I was recording everything. This was my moment of triumph, knowing that the truth would soon come to light and her betrayal would be exposed. Rita thought she had won, but she had no idea her own words were sealing her fate. Now I had all the cards in my hand. Rita had trapped herself, and honestly, I was reveling in how smoothly everything had gone. That same evening, I didn't waste any time. If you're going to play, you might as well play big. I launched my attack, confidently, decisively, without any hesitation. The first thing I did was send that very recording of our conversation to all her friends and acquaintances. Yep, just like that. Turns out, exposing someone is as easy as pressing a couple of buttons, and within minutes, all of her so-called close friends had received their dose of truth. Her reaction? Oh, it was exactly what I expected. At first, she tried to play the victim. "Sasha's gone crazy. She's imagining that I betrayed her." She immediately started throwing accusations around, as if someone was supposed to believe her version of events right away. Oh, sure, because when you're caught red-handed with a clear audio recording, the best strategy is to make the other person look insane. But the problem was, the recording spoke for itself. Every word she said was like music, playing the tune of truth, while all her excuses crumbled. Honestly, watching her squirm was kind of entertaining. Her friends started commenting, things like, "Rita, did you seriously do this? Dude, that's messed up," and other not-so-kind words. Her image of the innocent friend was completely shattered. Everyone could see her true nature, the one who thought she could betray, lie, and smile in your face. You know that moment when you realize the mask has finally fallen off? For me, it was as satisfying as a hot cup of coffee on a cold morning. But that was just the first step. I knew that with someone like Rita, I couldn't stop halfway. This girl had literally built her career on connections. She was always playing the part of the perfect employee and the perfect friend who's always on top. And her bosses, of course, believed in that image. You know the type. Always smiling, acting like everything's under control, while scheming behind people's backs. But the thing about scheming is that there's always something to hide. And that's when I decided it was time to take the game to the next level. Knowing her career was hanging by the thread of her flawless reputation, I started digging deeper. Through mutual acquaintances and a little bit of sleuthing. Okay, more like a few well-placed messages and accidental questions. I discovered some dirty secrets Rita had been keeping under wraps. Turns out, she wasn't as perfect as she seemed. Money, lies, bad decisions, it all started to come to the surface. And you know what? It was even easier than I thought. The world is small when you have the right connections. Now all I had to do was quietly pass these secrets on to the people who could really hurt her. This is where I went with a strategy I'd call targeted strikes. I wasn't about to just blow everything up at once. No, that would have been too boring. Instead, I subtly nudged the right information into the ears of those who could use it against Rita. In the office, rumors spread faster than coffee in the morning, so I didn't have to wait long. "Oh, did you hear that Rita actually messed up that project everyone's talking about?" Little questions, like tiny viruses, began circulating around the office. She had spent years building her reputation, and in just a few days, I started tearing it down. And you know, it was thrilling. Watching her perfect life slowly fall apart was the best show I'd ever seen. Within a couple of weeks, my plan began to bear fruit, and Rita's career started crumbling like a poorly sewn dress. Her perfect image at work turned out to be just a facade, and now it was falling apart in front of everyone. At first, her bosses started noticing small mistakes. Then those dirty secrets I'd so conveniently, accidentally shared with mutual contacts started coming to light. Soon, they decided it was better to cut her loose than to risk the company's reputation. She was officially suspended, which in the office world is a soft way of saying, "You're fired, but leave gracefully." All those corporate smiles and exchanged compliments between co-workers quickly vanished. As soon as Rita lost her job, her friends started avoiding her faster than people run away from someone sneezing on the subway. Oh yeah, of course, they were only friends with her because she was in the loop. And now she was no one. She tried to find support in her family, because when everything falls apart, you usually turn to those who will always have your back, right? But not in Rita's case. Once her family found out about everything that happened, including those photos, the lies, and the work failures, they quickly realized that supporting her was no longer an option. They turned their backs on her too. And that was the real end. I could almost hear her calling her mom. "Mom, I got fired, and everyone's turned on me. You'll support me, right?" And in response, silence, or maybe something like, "Rita, you should have thought about this earlier." Even her own family didn't want to deal with her anymore. In the end, the truth didn't just come out, it destroyed her entire life. Now, she was completely alone, surrounded only by her failures and disappointments. In the end, Rita lost everything she'd worked so hard to build, like her carefully curated outfits for every party, her job, her friends, and her reputation. It was the complete collapse of her perfect life. All those who once surrounded her disappeared, as if they were part of a show that suddenly got cancelled. No one wanted to have anything to do with her anymore. You know what's ironic? The harder she tried to be better than everyone else, the faster it all fell apart like a house of cards in the wind. As for me, regrets? None. Not even close. I didn't feel a single ounce of guilt for what had happened. Why should I? Rita deserved every second of her personal apocalypse. She built this perfect little image around herself, thinking she could manipulate people like pawns on a chessboard. Well, turns out the pawns were smarter than she thought. Honestly, I was more surprised at how easily everything fell into place. She practically handed me all the cards. I just gave her a little nudge, and it all unraveled. No, I won't say I somehow changed after all this. Okay, maybe a little. Now I knew that if someone betrays you this badly, you can always find ways to get it all back, and with interest. Yes, this experience taught me something. When someone breaks your trust like that, revenge can not only be sweet, but also incredibly effective. It's like a chess game where you make calculated moves, then suddenly you deliver the checkmate, and your opponent doesn't even see it coming.